Now, my just total thrill to introduce our keynote speaker, Matt de la Peña. He is somebody who's a legend around the country. It's interesting, Matt, how so many different people have fallen in love with you.
So,
The young adults for your YA novels, and then of course everyone for your picture books, which just span all ages. I think they're written as much for us adults as they are for the 5 and 6-year-olds. Matt is a Newbery Medal winning author of so many books. And what we're going to do now is that Matt and I are going to have a conversation, and that will be our keynote. I just want to say that, Matt, over the years, the conversations that we've had about your incredible books have been transformational to this community. And if people want to look at the conversation we had about Milo Imagines the World, we've got it on our website. What's amazing is we set you up to be doing this talk and didn't know that you would have a new book just on the verge of coming out.
yes.
And I have a printout of it,
Oh,
but I
nice.
haven't seen it. I know most of the people who are here will not yet have heard of it. Would you mind that before we even begin with a conversation, just reading us home?
Oh, I would love to. And first, I just want to start off by saying thank you, Lucy, for having me, and thank you for the community that you've built. I remember a long time ago, back in the late 30s, you picked up a book of mine called A Nation's Hope, and you started to share it with your community. Maybe it wasn't the 1930s, maybe it was more recent than that. But I'll never forget that that was my invitation into the community you built over the years. And I can't believe the number of people I've met around the country who have said, hey, I saw you here, or we used your book through Lucy's program. So thank you for having me. And I'd be thrilled to share home with you.
Thanks.
Okay, let's see. Let's find this thing. Okay. So I'll just start with a reading. This book really came out of a previous book that I collaborated on with Lauren Long called Love. And it's where you kind of explore concept and you're not just following a single character. So, home. I just did the audiobook, so I should not mess this up. Home is a tired lullaby and a late night traffic that mumbles in through a crack in your curtains. Home is the faint trumpet of a distant barge as your grandfather casts his line from the edge of his houseboat. Home is the big-bellied airplanes always soaring overhead. The jet engine shrieks as you stack blocks or push plastic cars, and the rumble you feel through the floorboards is the promise of home. And soon your heart syncs up with the hurry of the world, with the endless march of a Santa Fe freight train and an early morning jackhammer that buckles your city sidewalks. By the end of summer, you can no longer sleep without the 18-wheel groan of your father's big rig. On the way to school each morning, you peer into the busy construction site where workers steer tractors and pound steel stakes. You wonder what life would be like in a shiny new high-rise with elevators and a pool and a doorman who is always there to welcome you home. But a day may come when you learn how a home can be lost. Hurricane rains flood your streets, or a thick black smoke blankets the sky, or Papa's garment factory closes down. Through the back window of an old truck, you watch the only home you've ever known grow smaller and smaller behind you. A day may come when it's hard to find your footing, when each gust of wind threatens to sweep you up and carry you away. But slowly, very slowly, you will find a harbor in love. In the calloused hand of a quiet father, or the silly little love notes packed inside your lunchbox. In the family secrets your grandma always tells while rolling her tortillas. Home is not a house you leave behind, but the people who walk beside you. It's the endless laughter of a backyard barbecue and a teacher who holds open the classroom door and welcomes you inside. It's the solemn bow of heads at church and the squeal of rusty store gates as the city slowly wakes. One evening, your mom veers off the paved road for a trail that cuts through the woods. Together you climb the gnarled branches of an old oak tree to breathe the cool air and watch the colorful sky. Now most days you come to the seashore. While your brother collects shells, you sink your feet deep into the sand and read your books and think your quiet thoughts. And slowly, very slowly, you shed the hurry like old skin and turn instead to wonder. Home is not the walls we build up around our orderly little lives, but the wild, wild world outside. It's the hawk steadily circling overhead, measuring the sky with its wings. And it's the roar of the tide retreating over rocks. It's the floppy flight of a monarch butterfly and the sweet smell of sunlight shining down on a field of jasmine. It's a wish made on the first star you see while you tow back and forth on a tire swing. Home is not the voice inside your head insisting, I want, I want, I want, but the slow gather of an ocean swell and the quiet weeping of the busker's violin. It's the thump, thump, thump of your own human heart as you stand in a forest of redwoods or wade into a glass-covered lake. It's the thump, thump, thump of the earth's sentimental song, inviting you into the harmony of things, promising that all life is one life, and when the winds do come, they will carry you home. So thanks for letting me share that.
Oh, oh man.
Hmm.
It's been amazing to listen to you, to watch the responses. So many people saying I'm crying.
Oh,
So many. So start and just tell us, what should we know? What's the important stuff for us to hear, to go with?
yeah, I'll track it back to the book Love, which was the first collaboration with Lauren Long. And I remember I was a brand new parent, and I remember I was having trouble going from watching the news during a very heated election where everyone hated everyone else, and the news was, all about the bad things that was happening, that were happening. And then I'd go into my little baby girl's room and try to tell her the world is beautiful. And so I was like, how do I square those two things? So then I thought, well, what if I write a book meditating on the word love? That's the kind of tool that I want to have to read to my daughter. And I've always viewed books as just tools. They're tools for conversation or ideas or curiosity. But then when I was writing the book, something felt slightly off. It felt a little thin, it didn't have substance. So I thought, you know what, maybe if you're going to write a book about love, you have to at least acknowledge adversity. And that's really how the final draft of Love came about. So with Home, it was a similar process where I was like, okay, I want to explore the idea of home. And I will tell you candidly, I started really thinking about this during the pandemic. And I thought, wow, what we've been doing, humans, is we're trying to impose our will on the world and live against nature. We're clearing nature so we can have a space for humanity. And during the pandemic, you saw nature kind of reclaim so many spaces that we had kind of retreated from. And so then when I was thinking about the disruption, like the adversity in love, I thought, well, so many people experience the loss of a home in a number of different ways. And so that became the substance of the book and what we had to rally around. And then, of course, the final turn is really understanding that home is the earth, and we need to live alongside the earth, not against it.
So many things that you said that are resonating with me. I want to just say something about love for a minute.
Sure.
It's an exquisite, exquisite, exquisite book.
Thank
And
you.
one of the pages that I love to go to, I'm reminded that you told us that the first page in Milo Imagines the World is almost a metaphor for the whole book.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because, everybody's looking at their device and Milo is looking up. And you said this
Yep.
is a book about seeing. And then the subway looks one way so far away and a whole different way up close. And it's a book
Yeah.
about seeing up close. So when I was reading Love, I was sort of looking for pages that are metaphors for the whole book. And so many
Mm,
are, but there's a page that I wanted to have you talk about it for a minute. And it's the page where the big brother is bringing the little brother orange juice and they're looking outside at the father trudging off to work.
yeah.
In that page, you say, and in time, you learn to recognize a love overlooked, a love that wakes at dawn and rides to work on the bus, a slice of burnt toast that tastes like love. And that last sentence, a slice of burnt toast that tastes like love, feels to me like one of the things you're doing over and over in these books, which is finding beauty and tenderness in the slice of burnt toast.
Yeah.
And in that scene, the little boy, the little brother looks like he hasn't changed his clothes for 3 days, kind of all ruffled up old clothes. And the father is not like walking, with happily off to work. He's trudging through the snow.
Yep.
And so it's a scene of so much honest looking at the world and so much love, so much love. And it feels when I read Home, it feels that same way, that you look with such sort of honesty at the hard parts, at the grit, and also with so much love.
Well, you just hit on something with this idea of seeing, because when I look at the picture books now, I always look at them as they're different explorations on the idea of seeing. And do you mind if I actually show you that toast scene?
Yeah, no, please do.
Okay. Um, let's see. Okay. I'll go back, or actually I'll go forward. And that scene is right here.
Yeah,
I'll tell you a couple secrets about this. Originally, the text read, "And in time you learn to recognize a love overlooked." And I was focused on that parent going to work and a child having a more agented version of love as they grow older and being able to look out into the world and be able to name love for themselves. So here's a boy seeing a father go to work and seeing that as an act of love. And at first, my last line here wasn't a slice of burnt toast that tastes like love. It was actually a pair of old house slippers that fit like love. Now, it served the same purpose, right? It was like a tiny little sliver of our lives that can be a symbol of love. Um, but when Lauren was coming in with the sketches, the first one was just this boy looking at his father. And then he did another try in a more wealthier looking apartment, because we were thinking about inclusivity with setting. And then his final sketch, he had this brother here, and I was like, whoa, this is such a different layer that I had never considered. So I tossed away that last line and I replaced it for the first time in my career based on a sketch. I changed the text of the poem and I changed it to a slice of burnt toast that tastes like love, because he's concentrating on his father and this act of service for the family of going to work, but he's not quite yet seeing what his brother's doing for him. And it's very similar to, I'm going to go back to Holmes. Bear with me for a sec. In probably my favorite image in the book, we have somebody who they've lost their home because they couldn't afford to pay the mortgage or the rent. And do you see this young person here is focused on the house that they've lost. But what she's not seeing is that the most important sort of like source of home is actually in the cab with her. And Lauren and I talked so much about his illustrations and how he kind of, in the negative space, formed the physical look of a house. So she's looking at this house, much like the boy whose brother is giving him toast is looking at the father, but neither one of them are all the way to where they're seeing the whole big picture, right? Because eventually she's going to turn to her parents and understand, which we see in the very end, that you can rebuild, and it just looks different here.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
so layered. Another scene that, can you take me to the page, but a day may come when you learn how home can be lost.
Yes.
I just wanted to say about that. And it is the same in a way, the love of the burnt toast. It's that scene that there. Okay, so this is the scene where things are bad. You can leave
Yeah.
home. And by the way, the thick black smoke coming, your words saying that right now when our heart is broken for
Yeah.
that enormous part of this world that's lost, where the fires came. But what I think is so beautiful on this page is amongst all of that destruction and loss, there's that love there. They're holding
Yeah.
the center of the page is that family unit there.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, and the cover of the book, importantly, I don't know if I have this cover here. Let's see. I think I do. Yes. So it was important that the cover is the child, but not a physical home or house. So like that's the whole point of the book. And I think you're right to point out that yes, they've lost a home and their focus is on the devastation of that. Of course, we all are going to react in a certain way, but thank God they have somebody to hold on to, and that's their North Star from that point forward. And it is the actual same family and this tree, by the way, is a huge symbol. This tree in the forefront has been really impaired, and then at the very end we go back to that family and we see that they've rebuilt the home. The dog is older, showing a bit of a passage of time, and they're still continuing to rebuild the neighborhood, but they left that tree in front of their house damaged the way it was as kind of a symbol of their resilience. And I think hopefully at the end of the day, that's what their little vignette in the book Home is about, is resilience.
okay, another page. Take me, but slowly, very slowly, you will find a harbor in love.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay, let's see. Oh yeah. Oops. So very slowly, here we go.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a dog.
Well, Lauren Long loves dogs. This is what you got to understand about this guy. He loves dogs. So there's no way I will have a collaboration with him without dogs.
Well, those of us who love dogs, it's like, oh,
Absolutely.
I love it. And then I love just the pace of it. It's just, that's it. So, some of the pages are so rock full of all this.
Yes.
This has, I mean, it's such a, you could frame this and put it in your home. And, I mean, it's.
Well, this is something I've really learned to love about writing picture books. And I just spent the last year writing my very first middle grade novel. So I've been in the world of writing a longer work, I think it's 45,000 words, something like that. But the genius of the picture book is that there are times when you have a lot, right? It's like if you pushed your hand into the text, you'd come out and there'd be all these letters stuck to your hand. But there are times when you need to pull back as the author and have very few words, but the right words to choose for that section with the right sounds, because that's just as important. and allowed the visual image to kind of carry more of the day. So another example of that is in Love. I got to the biggest part of adversity in this book is this family, and they've been fighting. And so I knew that here I needed to really pull back on the text. So but it's not only stars that flame out, you discover, it's summers too, period. And friendships, period. And people, period. So, there are times where you just have to kind of pull back and just kind of like limit the language, truncate everything you're doing in terms of the text, and then allow that visual image, that part of the storytelling, to kind of like take up the room, to make its presence known. And so I love that about picture books, is that you can kind of move forward and pull back.
So Matt, speaking of moving forward and pulling back, it's 10 to
Yes.
5. So I want to just read this sentence that you wrote for us to carry forward. Home is not a house that you leave behind, but the people who walk beside you. And there's lines like that I'm going to just carry with me from this book, from each of your books. And I just thank you so much for writing with it all.